Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we are going to be talking about some critical updates from free agency buzz to draft workouts and some prospect evaluations as we are now just 8 days away from the 2025 NBA draft. The Hawks front office is moving with purpose this offseason, as we know. And with 2 first-round picks and multiple roster spots, potentially moving around, things are shaping up to get very interesting, to say the least. We're going to break down Atlanta's reported interest in re-signing veteran forward Larry Nance Jr. And dive into what Clint Capella's future looks like. We're going to kind of tie those together and then talk about something that actually recently came to light just earlier today. Kaman Maluach had a meeting with the Hawks just recently, and so we're going to discuss that and also the draft stock of both Ace Bailey out of Rutgers and Colin Murray-Boyles out of South Carolina. So without further ado, let's get right into it and talk about a report from Coley Cleary of Hoops Hype. The Atlanta Hawks are interested in re-signing Larry Nance Jr. Now, I know we talked about Larry Nance Jr. a couple episodes ago. However, there has been an official report that the Hawks are interested in re-signing him to maybe a short-term deal. Now, Nance, as we know, only played 24 games last season, obviously due to injury that he suffered against the Orlando Magic. But when he was on the court, he was impressively efficient. He averaged 8.5 points per game while shooting 52% from the floor and 45% from three. Very impressive numbers. Obviously a career high for him in three-point efficiency. That's legitimate stretch big production in the small amount of minutes we saw him play this season. I mean, obviously with Nance, there's more factors than just his play. He also brings a veteran presence that's valued in a young Hawks locker room that's obviously now led by Trae Young. I mean, in the past, the Hawks have leaned on veterans such as like Bogdan Bogdanovic and Patty Mills to really shape the culture. And Nance obviously fits that mold. A pro's pro who knows his role, stays ready, and plays winning basketball. Really, importantly, Nance wouldn't need to be a regular rotation player. I mean, his contract would be very cheap, and he's the type of player who could just slide into the lineup on any given night and hold down the fort when needed. But he's not someone with an ego that would demand minutes at his age, and obviously with his declining game, although his game wasn't really declining last year. He's an interesting player, but it's someone that I would like Atlanta to bring back as kind of like a third center. I think Larry would be up to it. I think there's mutual interest there. Obviously, like there is mutual interest in between the Hawks and Karis LeVert. However, Nance is also, similar to Karis LeVert, expected to draw interest on the open market, as both are obviously unrestricted free agents. Some contenders might look at both of them. I mean, with playoff teams, looking for experienced front court depth, Larry Nance Jr. is someone who obviously fits that mold, and his potential return to Atlanta also intersects with the next big storyline, something we've also been talking about for a while, the future of Clint Capella on the Hawks. So obviously, Capella's name has been floated in trade rumors for well over a year now, and according to league insiders and past reporting from Hoops Hype, there is a growing belief among rival teams that Capella could leave in free agency or be moved via sign and trade, especially after being benched, obviously, in favor of Onyeka Okongwu late last season, something that was inevitable and bound to happen eventually. While he declined very much, Capella's production is still solid, and it would be a situation where he could still contribute on a contender, kind of as maybe a backup five. I mean, despite being benched last season, he averaged 9 points and 9 rebounds and a block per game in just over 21 minutes. Obviously, the lowest minutes he's played in a long time. But the Hawks obviously clearly see Onyeka Okongwu as the future at center, and Capella's contract and timeline no longer align with the team's evolving direction. So we're going to tie this into the draft because there has been an interesting report that came out just this morning that Atlanta worked out Duke center Kaman Maluach, one of the most intriguing prospects in the 2025 NBA draft class. He's also drawn some serious interest from the Pelicans and the Wizards. It's someone who there's obviously some smoke with a trade up because a guy like him who's projected to go really in the top 8, working out with a team who's picking at 13th is very notable. And that's something that, there's obviously a lot of smoke there. And I think his camp would really like for him to play in Atlanta, obviously catching lobs from Trae Young and being a part of a ever-evolving young core who's looking to take over the Eastern Conference. Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports even coined in what he's calling the center vortex in this draft, with multiple lottery teams jockeying for position to grab one of the young elite big men of this class. I mean, Malawach is drawing attention from teams as high as number 5, with skepticism that he will fall beyond the top 9, which is obviously why Atlanta would need to trade up. I mean, the Raptors, Bulls, and yes, the Hawks are all reportedly interested. So this is going to be something that it'll be tough to get done. But if the Hawks really eye Malawach as their number 1 prospect, which I certainly do, although I don't know if that's something that the organization feels, but it's clear that they are pretty high on him, and they would have to pay a whole lot to move up because their team's obviously competing with the Hawks in a move up scenario. I mean, like I said in previous episodes, Malawach is currently my top prospect for the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, I'm going to, in the coming days, I'm going to put out a Hawks-specific big board for kind of everyone to use as a guide on, draft day, and I'm going to put it on my Twitter, so be on the lookout for that. I mean, Malawach is 7'2" with mobility, rim protection, instincts, and a developing offensive game. I mean, he's raw, but his upside is enormous and could really fit in today's NBA, especially with the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, if Capella is indeed on the way out, which everything points towards that, the Hawks drafting a center at 13 or just moving up for Malawach makes perfect sense. And obviously, they're going to have to move up if they want a guy like Malawach, because he is not someone who is going to drop to 13. Now let's pivot to another big name, Ace Bailey. And this isn't necessarily about the Hawks taking Ace Bailey, but there have been some interesting reports. And obviously with Atlanta looking to trade up, nothing's really out of the realm, as this is going to be a crazy draft and a crazy offseason in general. So Ace Bailey is an interesting prospect. He had a standout season for Rutgers. Obviously, the freshman averaged 17.6 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 1.3 assists per game on 46% shooting. So decent shooting splits and very, very, very solid numbers as a freshman. I mean, his athleticism, size, and scoring ability scream NBA star potential. But lately, there has been some concern, and there have been some recent reports. According to ESPN's Jonathan Giovanni, Bailey's pre-draft strategy has raised some eyebrows. He's yet to work out for any teams. I mean, now he's scheduled to work out for the Philadelphia 76ers, who obviously hold the number 3 overall pick. And his camp is reportedly only willing to go to teams that offer a clear pathway to stardom. That statement has obviously raised some concern, teams aren't looking for guys who are just strictly ball dominant anymore, with obviously team-centered basketball becoming more of an approach. That kind of approach can, scare some front offices away, the way, Bailey and his camp are dealing with this pre-draft process. I mean, especially ones picking outside the top 3. Now, Giovanni still has Bailey going 6 to the Wizards, but that is obviously, kind of low for a guy with, superstar potential. If he starts to slide, and maybe he's available at pick 6 or 7, the Hawks could be facing an interesting dilemma. Let's say Bailey is available at pick 7. Do you take the swing and trade up? I mean, obviously, the Hawks could just trade up in general before draft night, and then, kind of play it by ear from there, and then whoever is available between Bailey and Malawach, just take them, because we're in a draft where the Hawks really are probably going to take the best player available. As when you're not a contending team, you don't draft for fit, you draft BPA, which I think is what the Hawks are going to do. And I mean, there's clear superstar upside, but also some major bust potential with Ace Bailey. I mean, some scouts are even comparing him to Cam Reddish, who Hawks fans are obviously very familiar with. I mean, wanted a role that was obviously outside of his realistic upside, and it ended up being his downfall in the NBA. I mean, Cam had all the talent in the world, never quite put it together, showed some great flashes as a rookie and a second-year player in Atlanta, but, there were obviously ego concerns, and this situation is kind of comparable to what we're seeing with Ace Bailey right now, although I will say Ace Bailey is a much better prospect than Cam Reddish. I mean, considering his size and his overall tools offensively and defensively. Bailey's fit in Atlanta is very intriguing. I mean, especially with the front office, being comfortable betting on his raw potential. I mean, but with the franchise needing stability and culture more than ever, and really needing a big man, they may prefer to go the safer route and even stay at 13, or if they trade up, obviously just taking a guy like Malawach, which is obviously the much more realistic option. But Ace Bailey is someone to think about, because he could be one of those draft fallers. He might even fall to 10. I mean, that's obviously unlikely, but that would make it much more realistic for Atlanta to trade up and get him. Who knows? Maybe he's even there at 13. I mean, now I'm just kind of talking because that's something that's really shouldn't happen. I mean, he's way too talented to fall to 13. But I mean, if Atlanta were to get super lucky and he's there, it'd be interesting. And then again, who knows if Atlanta even has any sort of interest in him? So we're gonna go ahead and move on and talk about some, speaking of high upside swings. Let's talk about South Carolina sophomore Colin Murray Boyles. He's someone who a lot of Hawks fans love, and I don't really see it as of right now. He's kind of a controversial prospect because of some offensive limitations, but he's a versatile big with intriguing tools. I mean, he averaged 16.8 points, 8 rebounds, and over a block and a steal per game last season. I mean, great numbers, and he's one of the youngest sophomores in college basketball. I mean, he brings toughness, feel, and a surprising level of passing ability from the front court. But here's the catch. I mean, he's 6'6" barefoot as a power forward and doesn't really possess elite quickness or leaping ability. Not a lot of athleticism. In today's NBA, where athleticism is very much prioritized. His wingspan helps. I mean, it's a 7-foot wingspan, but he's still very much undersized for a traditional post player in today's NBA. At the NBA Combine especially, Murray Boyles struggled with his shooting, which makes his fit in the modern NBA a bit murky. I mean, he's not a spacer at all, and right now he can't reliably switch onto guards, but the potential is there. I mean, his shot, it doesn't look bad, but it is bad, and that obviously can grow, as we've seen in several situations, especially here in Atlanta. His feel for the game, motor, and versatility do give him a chance to carve out a role in the NBA. Some evaluators do believe he could be a steal if he falls later into the first round, or, maybe even, he could be a steal at 13 if the Hawks were to take him, because he does have that potential. However, it's not something that's guaranteed because of his limitations, which are very much obvious. I mean, it's a bit of a stretch at pick 13, I would say. For right now, he could grow on me. He could be someone who I do a complete 180 on. But if Atlanta moves back or gains another pick, Murray Boyles could be a name to watch. I mean, right now he's projected to go 15th. That could drop as teams really are starting to value shooting much more. A long-term project, maybe, but the raw materials are there, and it's something Atlanta should maybe at least consider. Maybe bring him in for a workout. So to recap, the Hawks are considering bringing back veteran Larry Nance Jr., a move that could add both leadership and flexibility to the bench and continue to have that as Larry has, obviously developed relationships with everyone around the Hawks organization. Clint Capella is likely nearing the end of his time in Atlanta, opening the door for Onyeka Okongwu and potentially a new rookie center like Kaman Maluach, my favorite prospect in this draft for the Hawks. Ace Bailey's stock continues to confuse scouts and execs, especially people, picking mid-lottery. And while the upside is enticing, the risk is real. And finally, Colin Murray Boyles offers a high motor option if the Hawks look to add toughness and long-term depth in the front court. He could obviously strike Atlanta as a reliable option. The next few weeks are going to be pivotal. Between trade rumors, pre-draft workouts, free agency movement, and then obviously the NBA draft, we're going to keep a close eye on every single detail here on Hawks Latest. So as always, let me know what you think in the comments. Who would you like to see in a Hawks uniform next season? Should they bring back Nance? Should they trade up and take the swing on a guy like Ace Bailey? Should they trade up for Maluach? Or should they play it safe and develop from within and keep their draft picks at 13 and 22? Just let me know down below. I mean, we've got a lot of storylines to potentially follow. So that's going to be it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. Thank you guys for watching. Once again, I am Zach Langley. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day like we always have been doing. So once again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.